The red dust of Texas rose in clouds as Marcus Webb's 1987 Ford pickup rattled down the dirt road toward the Callahan Ranch. It was 6:30 on a Saturday morning in August, and the heat already promised to be merciless. Marcus was 68 years old, but his hands on the steering wheel were steady, marked by decades-old calluses and scars that told stories he never shared. He hadn't come into the town of Redemption, Texas, in almost 3 weeks, not because it was far. His property was only 8 miles from downtown, but because the people of Redemption had long ago learned not to seek him out, and he had learned not to need them. Grumpy old bastard, he'd once overheard at the grocery store when they thought he wasn't listening. Can barely say good morning without snarling. Marcus didn't care. He preferred it that way. Less complicated, less painful. But today he had a purpose. Something he'd been thinking about for weeks, ever since he'd heard Tom Callahan at the gas station talking about that damn bull that's gonna have to be put down before it kills someone for real. The Callahan property appeared ahead. 200 acres of cattle-raising land, pristine white fences, a bright red barn. Everything Marcus's farm wasn't. His 40-acre property was functional at best, neglected at worst. He kept a few horses, some chickens, enough to keep busy, not enough to need help. Tom Callahan was at the corral when Marcus pulled up. Tall, broad-shouldered, 45 years old with all the confidence of a man who'd inherited land and money. He frowned when he saw Marcus. "Webb," he said in greeting without enthusiasm. "Wasn't expecting you. Heard you got a bull for sale." Marcus climbed out of the truck, his left knee protesting, a souvenir from an IED in Fallujah 2004. Tom crossed his arms. "Not for sale, for slaughter. Big difference." "Let me see him." "Marcus, with all due respect, you can barely take care of your own property. Why the hell do you want a bull?" Marcus's jaw tightened. It was always like this. Everyone in this town thought they knew everything about him. Thought he was just a sour old man who couldn't keep his life together. "Just show me the animal." Tom sighed but nodded toward the back corral. "Your funeral." They walked past the main barn to an isolated area where reinforced containment structures had been built. Marcus could hear the sounds before he saw the animal. Kicks against metal, heavy, angry snorting. And then he saw him. The bull was massive, easily 800 pounds of pure muscle and fury. His coat was black as coal, with an irregular white patch on his left flank that looked like a scar. But it was the eyes that captured Marcus. Wild, yes. Angry, yes. But also frightened, desperate. Marcus recognized that look. He saw it in the mirror every day. "Nightmare," Tom said. "That's what we call him. Bought him from a bankrupt rodeo circuit 6 months ago. Thought I could break him, use him for breeding. But he's uncontrollable. Already injured 2 of my men. Broke through 3 fences. Yesterday, he nearly killed my son when Jake got too close." The bull, Nightmare, slammed against the containment fence, making the entire corral shake. "Why haven't you put him down yet?" Marcus asked. "Because he's worth money if someone's dumb enough to take him. His bloodlines are top tier, but no rancher within 100 miles will touch him. So yeah, Monday the slaughter truck comes." Marcus watched the bull for a long moment. Nightmare stared back, not with defiance but with something closer to resignation. An animal that had given up on everything except anger. "How much?" Tom laughed, but it was a humorless sound. "Marcus, you're not listening. This animal is dangerous. He will kill you." "How much?" "You don't even have proper facilities. No containment chute, no squeeze, nothing. How the hell do you plan to transport him?" "I'll figure it out." Marcus kept his eyes on the bull. "How much?" Tom studied the older man for a long moment. There were rumors about Marcus Webb, veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan. Came back changed, like they all came back. Wife left him a decade ago. Adult daughter didn't speak to him. Lived alone, rarely came to town, never befriended anyone. $1,000, Tom finally said, "and you sign a waiver. When this bull kills you, I don't want it coming back on me. 500, and you lend me your transport trailer for the weekend." "You're insane." $750, final offer. Tom looked at the bull, then at Marcus, then back at the bull. God help you, old man. Done. But the trailer's back by Monday, understood? 30 minutes later, papers were signed, the waiver recorded on Tom's cell phone video, and Marcus was driving down Redemption's Main Street with a trailer hauling the most dangerous bull in the county. He stopped at the town's only traffic light, more out of tradition than necessity, since no one else was driving at 8 a.m. on a Saturday, when he saw Sarah Chen coming out of the bakery with a paper bag. Sarah was 35, a biology teacher at the high school, and one of the few people in Redemption who occasionally tried to talk to Marcus when she saw him. He'd never understood why. She was polite, intelligent, attractive, everything that suggested she should know better than to waste time on him. She saw him, and her eyes widened when she noticed what he was hauling. The trailer visibly shook with the bull's movements. Sarah crossed the street quickly. "Mr. Webb, is that a bull back there?" "It is." "From the Callahans? The one they call Nightmare?" News traveled fast in small towns. "Yep." She looked at the trailer, then back at him. "Everyone says he's incredibly dangerous." "That's what they say." "And you bought him. Why exactly?" Marcus should have driven off. Should have given some short answer and left. But there was something in Sarah's voice, genuine concern, not judgment, that made him hesitate. "Because nobody else would," he said simply. Sarah clutched her paper bag tighter. "Mr. Webb, I don't mean to be nosy, but do you have the facilities for an animal like that? The Callahans have professional equipment, and they still nearly lost a man to him." "I'll manage." "You could get hurt. Seriously hurt." Marcus finally looked at her. Really looked at her. "Ms. Chen, with all due respect, I survived 3 tours in combat zones. I think I can handle 1 scared bull." "It's not the same thing." "No," he agreed, "but I have to try anyway." The light turned green. Marcus nodded to her and drove off, leaving Sarah standing in the street, staring after the disappearing trailer with an expression of concern and confusion. At Marcus's property, getting Nightmare from the trailer into the reinforced corral he'd spent the last 2 days improvising was like trying to move an angry mountain. It took 4 hours, 3 temporarily broken fences, and nearly resulted in Marcus being crushed against the side of his barn. But finally, as the sun began to set over Texas, Nightmare was in his new home. A 1-acre corral with double fences that Marcus had welded together using every piece of metal pipe he owned, and some he'd permanently borrowed from an abandoned construction site 5 miles away. It wasn't perfect, but it would do. Marcus stood outside the fence, watching the bull who was now furiously pacing the perimeter, testing every weak point, every vulnerability. "I know," Marcus said quietly, knowing the animal couldn't understand him but needing to say it anyway. "I know what it's like. Everyone telling you you're too dangerous, too broken, not worth saving." Nightmare stopped, staring at him through the fence with those wild, desperate eyes. "But here's the thing," Marcus continued, his voice rough with emotions he'd kept buried for decades. "Sometimes all a broken thing needs is someone dumb enough not to give up on it." The bull snorted, not exactly threatening, but not friendly either. Marcus turned to leave, then stopped. "And before you ask why I care, it's not about you. It's about me proving that if I can save you, maybe not everything's lost. Maybe there's still time to fix things I thought were too broken." He didn't wait for a response, just walked back to his lonely house, leaving the bull and the Texas night behind. But if he'd looked back, he might have seen that Nightmare had stopped pacing, and for the first time in months, the bull wasn't slamming against the fences. He was just standing there watching the old man walk away, almost as if he were listening. By Sunday afternoon, half of Redemption knew about Marcus Webb's death wish purchase. By Tuesday, Marcus's property had become the town's unofficial entertainment. Trucks parked along the county road, binoculars in hand, waiting for disaster. "Give it a week," said Doug Freeman, the hardware store owner. "That bull's gonna break through those fences and either gore him or run straight into town." Sarah Chen drove past Tuesday morning and saw the cluster of trucks. She pulled over, her stomach tight with anger. "This is disgusting," she said through her window. "Just being realistic, Ms. Chen," Doug replied. "Webb's gonna get himself killed. Or you could help him now instead of waiting for him to fail." Sarah shot back before driving off. Marcus knew they were watching. He didn't care. What he cared about was the bull. Nightmare hadn't eaten in 3 days. The quality hay and grain Marcus put out sat untouched. The bull just paced endlessly, his eyes wild and exhausted. Tuesday evening, after the watchers dispersed, Marcus did something risky. He opened the gate and stepped inside the corral. The bull's head snapped up, muscles tensing. "Easy," Marcus said softly, staying near the gate. "Not here to hurt you." He lowered himself to sit cross-legged, hands visible and empty. "I'm not every human, and you're not every bull." For 15 minutes, neither moved. Then Nightmare took one step forward, then another. Not approaching, just acknowledging. Marcus stayed perfectly still. "That's it. Just don't give up. Not yet." The bull turned and walked to the far corner, where he laid down for the first time since arriving. Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Wednesday morning brought Sarah Chen up his driveway. "Mr. Webb, I hope I'm not intruding." "Depends on why you're here." "I'm here to help, if you'll let me. I grew up on my uncle's ranch. I know animals, their behaviors, their trauma responses." Marcus studied her. "Why do you care?" "Because nobody should have to do this alone," Sarah said simply. After a long pause, Marcus nodded. 1 hour. You can observe. But you stay outside the fence." She stayed for 3 hours, watching quietly. Finally, she spoke. "He's not eating because he's waiting for punishment. Rodeo bulls are often food-deprived before events, then punished after. He doesn't trust that your food isn't a trap, so what do I do?" "Let me try something." Sarah was already walking to the gate. "Let me sit with him. Sometimes animals need to see that humans can exist in their space without being a threat." Against his better judgment, Marcus opened the gate. Sarah sat cross-legged in the center of the corral and pulled out a book. Nightmare watched, wary. 5 minutes passed, 10, 20. Then Nightmare lowered his head and began to eat. Not near Sarah, but from the pile 20 feet away. He was eating, for the first time in 4 days. Marcus felt something crack in his chest. Hope. When Sarah left, she turned to him. "He's going to be okay. You both are." Friday evening, Marcus did something unprecedented. He invited Sarah for coffee. They sat on his porch watching the sunset. Finally, Sarah asked, "What made you buy him?" "Really?" Marcus took a long breath. "I had a daughter, Emily. She died 10 years ago. Car accident. She was 26. Sarah's expression softened. "Before my last deployment, we fought. I said things I wish I could take back. I never got to apologize." His voice cracked. Emily loved animals. Every stray, every injured creature. She believed everything deserved a second chance. And Nightmare is the kind of creature Emily would have fought for, Marcus finished. "I couldn't save my daughter, but maybe I can save this one broken thing. Maybe that means her compassion didn't die with her." Sarah squeezed his hand. "She'd be proud of you." For the first time in a decade, Marcus didn't feel quite so alone. 3 weeks after Marcus brought Nightmare home, the bull allowed him to enter the corral without tensing. 4 weeks in, Nightmare would approach Marcus voluntarily, not close enough to touch, but close enough that Marcus could see the scars on his hide from years of ropes and rough handling. Then Tom Callahan showed up. Marcus was loading feed into his truck at the hardware store when Tom's Dodge pulled up beside him. "Webb," Tom said, climbing out. "Need to talk to you." Marcus kept loading. "So talk." "That bull. He's causing me problems. Word's gotten out that I sold him, that I gave up on him. Makes me look weak. 3 buyers interested in calves from his bloodline won't do business with me now." "Not my problem." "It is if I want him back." Tom stepped closer. "I'll give you 3 times what you paid. $3,000. That's serious money for playing cowboy." "He's not for sale." Tom's expression hardened. "Look, I get it. You're having your redemption moment. But this is business. That bull is worth money in the right hands." He's not livestock to me. Then you're a fool. Tom leaned against his truck. Your property has code violations everywhere. Fences don't meet county standards. One call to animal control and they'll assess whether you're providing adequate care. Be a shame if they decided he needed to be relocated. Marcus felt rage build in his chest. Get lost, Tom. 48 hours, Webb. Then I make that call. Tom climbed back into his truck and drove off. When Marcus got home, Sarah's Honda was in the driveway. She stood from the porch steps, her face worried. Marcus, I heard. Tom called me, wanted me to convince you to sell. I told him where he could shove his offer, but he threatened animal control, Marcus said flatly. Would they have grounds? Marcus looked at his property, the improvised fences, the aging barn. Maybe. I don't know. Then we make it better. Sarah held up her hand. I have savings. My uncle left me money. Let me help you. Sarah, I can't. Yes, you can. This isn't charity. This is proving Tom Callahan doesn't get to decide who deserves second chances. Marcus wanted to argue, but then he thought about Emily, about how she never let pride stop her from accepting help when something mattered. Okay, he said quietly. The next 48 hours were chaos. Sarah called in favors. Her uncle's old ranch hands showed up with tools and expertise. Doug Freeman offered supplies at cost after hearing what Tom was doing. Even Pete Martinez brought food for the workers. Word spread through Redemption. Tom Callahan was bullying Marcus Webb, and people were choosing sides. Not everyone sided with Marcus, but enough remembered Emily, sweet Emily who'd helped rescue animals and volunteered at the shelter, and decided her father deserved a chance. By end of day 1, the corral had reinforced fencing that met every code. By end of day 2, a proper shelter was built, feeding stations installed, the entire area upgraded to professional standards. Marcus watched it happen with gratitude and discomfort. He wasn't used to help, wasn't used to people caring. This is what community looks like, Sarah told him. This is what you've been missing. On the third morning, 2 vehicles pulled up, Tom's Dodge and a county animal control truck. Marcus's stomach dropped, but then more vehicles appeared. Sarah's Honda, Doug's van, Carlos and Miguel's truck. One by one, nearly 20 people from Redemption parked along the property and got out. Tom and the animal control officer, Jessica Reed, approached. Mr. Webb, Jessica said, I received a complaint about inadequate facilities. I'm required to inspect. Inspect away, Marcus said steadily. Jessica walked the property with her clipboard, checking everything. Tom followed, his smugness fading with each passing minute. After 30 minutes, Jessica returned. Mr. Webb, these are some of the best livestock facilities I've seen in this county. Whoever complained was either misinformed or malicious. She glanced at Tom. You're in full compliance. Actually, you exceed standards. Tom's face reddened. But 2 days ago? 2 days ago doesn't matter. Today does. Jessica handed Marcus a certificate. You're approved. No violations. The crowd that had gathered erupted in cheers. Tom stormed to his truck and peeled out, spraying gravel. Sarah walked up to Marcus, grinning. Looks like Nightmare's staying put. Marcus looked at the people gathered, neighbors who'd helped, who'd stood up for him when they didn't have to. Thank you, he said, his voice rough. All of you. Doug stepped forward. Emily would have done the same for any of us. About time we returned the favor. That evening, after everyone left, Marcus entered Nightmare's corral. The bull lifted his head, watching. Marcus walked slowly forward. For the first time, he didn't stop at a safe distance. He kept walking until he was close enough to touch. Nightmare didn't move, didn't threaten. Marcus raised his hand and placed it on the bull's massive shoulder. We made it, he whispered. We both made it. The bull's dark eyes met his, and in them Marcus saw something he recognized. Acceptance. Not of the past, that would always hurt, but of the present. Of the possibility that broken things could heal if given time and care. In the fading Texas light, man and beast stood together, both scarred, both survivors, both finally beginning to believe in second chances. 6 weeks after Nightmare arrived, something shifted in Marcus Webb that even he couldn't fully explain. The bull had become gentle. Not tame, never that, but calm, trusting. He'd eat from Marcus's hand, allow him to check his hooves, even seemed to enjoy the brushing sessions Marcus had started. Sarah came by 3 times a week now, always welcomed. They'd have coffee on the porch, talk about everything and nothing, watch Nightmare graze peacefully in the late afternoon sun. "You've changed," Sarah said one Thursday evening. Marcus looked at her. "How so?" "You smile now. I've seen you smile more in the last month than probably the last decade combined." Marcus considered this. She was right. The weight he'd carried for so long hadn't disappeared, but it had shifted, become bearable. "Nightmare changed me," he admitted. "Or maybe Emily did. Through him." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Have you ever told her? Emily, I mean. Have you ever said the things you wish you'd said?" "She's dead, Sarah. Can't exactly have that conversation." "No," Sarah said gently. "But you could write it. People write letters to loved ones they've lost all the time. It helps. Gives closure." Marcus wanted to dismiss it. Seemed foolish writing to someone who'd never read it. But something about the idea stuck with him. That night, Marcus sat at his kitchen table with a pen and paper. Actual paper, not a computer. This needed to be handwritten. He stared at the blank page for 20 minutes before finally writing 2 words, "Dear Emily." Then the dam broke. "I don't know if you can hear this, wherever you are. I don't know if it matters. But I need to say things I should have said when you were alive. I was wrong, about everything. You were right, the war was destroying me. I came home angry, broken, unable to let anyone in. I pushed you away when you tried to help. Pushed your mother away. I told myself I was protecting you from my pain, but really I was just being a coward. The night you died, I was home, watching some meaningless TV show. You'd asked me to come with you to release that hawk, and I said no. I was too tired. Truth is, I was afraid. Afraid that if I let myself feel joy again, let myself connect with you and your mother, I'd be vulnerable. That something would happen, and I'd lose you. And then I lost you anyway, in the worst way possible, and I never got to tell you I was sorry." Marcus's hand shook as he wrote. Tears fell onto the paper, smudging the ink. "I bought a bull 6 weeks ago. Nightmare, they called him. Dangerous, broken, headed for slaughter. Everyone thought I was crazy. Maybe I was. But I saw something in his eyes, the same fear and anger I see in my mirror every day. And I thought about you, about how you'd have fought for him, how you never gave up on broken things, including me. So I bought him, brought him home, decided to prove that broken doesn't mean worthless. He's gentle now, Emily, peaceful. He eats from my hand, lets me brush him. He's healing. And in healing him, I think I'm finally starting to heal too. I met someone, Sarah Chen. She teaches at your old high school. She reminds me of you sometimes. That same compassion, that same refusal to give up on people. She helped me save Nightmare when I couldn't do it alone. Helped me realize that isolation isn't strength, it's just fear dressed up as independence. I'm sorry I wasn't the father you deserved. Sorry I wasted our last months together being stubborn and angry. Sorry I wasn't there when you needed me most. But I'm trying now. Trying to live the way you lived, with compassion, with hope, with the belief that everything deserves a second chance. I hope that counts for something. I hope wherever you are you can see that your old man finally figured it out, finally learned what you tried to teach me all along. I love you, Emily. I should have said it more, should have shown it better, but I love you. Always have, always will. Your father, Marcus. He folded the letter carefully, placed it in an envelope. Tomorrow, he'd drive to Emily's grave and leave it there. Not because she could read it, but because he needed to say it. Needed to release the words he'd carried like stones in his chest for a decade. The next morning, Marcus drove to Redemption Cemetery. He hadn't been there in 3 years. Couldn't bear it before. But today felt different. Emily's headstone was simple granite. Emily Rose Webb, 1988-2014. She loved all creatures, great and small. Margaret had chosen the inscription. It was perfect. Marcus knelt in the grass, placed the letter against the headstone. "Hey, sweetheart," he said quietly. "Been a while. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about a lot of things." He told her about Nightmare, about Sarah, about how the town had come together to help him, about how he was finally learning to live instead of just survive. "I think you'd like him," Marcus said. "Nightmare, I mean. He's got your spirit, stubborn as hell but with a good heart underneath. And Sarah, I think you two would have been friends. She's got your way of seeing the best in people, even when they don't deserve it." A breeze rustled through the cemetery trees. Marcus liked to think it was Emily, acknowledging him. "I'm gonna keep trying," he promised. "Gonna keep taking care of Nightmare. Gonna let Sarah in instead of pushing her away. Gonna live the way you would have wanted. That's my promise to you." He stood, touched the headstone one last time, and walked back to his truck. As he drove home, Marcus felt lighter than he had in years. The guilt wasn't gone, might never be gone, but it no longer ruled him. He'd said what he needed to say. The rest was learning to forgive himself. When he arrived home, Sarah's car was in the driveway. She stood by Nightmare's corral, and the bull was pressed against the fence, letting her scratch behind his ears. "Hey," she said when Marcus approached. "Hope you don't mind. I had a free morning." "Never mind," Marcus said, and meant it. They stood together, watching Nightmare, and Marcus realized something profound. He wasn't alone anymore. Hadn't been for weeks, really. He had Sarah, had the people of redemption who'd shown up when he needed them, had Nightmare, had a second chance. "Sarah," he said suddenly, "thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me, for seeing something worth saving when everyone else just saw a grumpy old man." Sarah smiled. "Same reason you saved Nightmare. Sometimes broken things just need someone stubborn enough to believe they can heal." Marcus laughed, actually laughed, and it felt good. In the corral, Nightmare lifted his head and made a soft sound, almost like contentment. Three broken things, man, woman, and beast, standing together in the Texas morning, all healing, all hoping, all finally believing that tomorrow could be better than yesterday. 3 months after Marcus brought Nightmare home, Redemption's annual fall festival arrived. Marcus hadn't attended in over a decade. Too many people, too many questions, too many reminders of everything he'd lost. But this year, Sarah had other ideas. "You're coming," she said Tuesday afternoon, no room for argument in her voice. "Sarah, I don't do crowds." "You do now. Besides, I already signed you up for something." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Signed me up for what?" She grinned. "You'll see Saturday." Saturday morning dawned clear and cool. Marcus stood in front of his bathroom mirror, barely recognizing himself. He'd trimmed his beard, put on a clean shirt, not flannel for once, and actually looked presentable. "Emily would laugh her head off seeing this," he muttered. At the corral, Nightmare watched as Marcus approached. "Wish me luck, buddy. Going into town. Voluntarily." He patted the bull's massive shoulder. "Never thought I'd see the day." Nightmare snorted softly, almost like encouragement. The festival was in full swing when Marcus arrived. Main Street was closed off, lined with booths selling everything from homemade pies to hand-carved furniture. Children ran between adults, faces painted, clutching cotton candy. A band played country music on a makeshift stage. Marcus's instinct was to turn around and leave, but then he saw Sarah waving from a booth near the center of town. "You made it!" She grabbed his arm, practically dragging him forward. "Come on, we're setting up." "Setting up what?" She led him to a booth with a large banner. "Second Chance's Animal Sanctuary. Coming soon." Marcus stopped dead. "What is this?" Sarah turned to face him, her expression both excited and nervous. "It's what we're going to build. You, me, and anyone else who believes broken things deserve saving." "Sarah, I can't." "Yes, you can. We've already got 5 sponsors. Doug donated materials. Carlos and Miguel offered to help with construction. We're going to create a place for animals like Nightmare, ones headed for slaughter, ones nobody wants, ones that just need time and patience to heal. Marcus felt overwhelmed. This is too much. It's not nearly enough, Sarah said firmly. What you did with Nightmare, that needs to happen for more animals, and you're the perfect person to do it. You understand trauma. You understand what it takes to rebuild trust. A small crowd had gathered around the booth. Marcus recognized many faces, people who'd helped upgrade his property, people who'd stood up to Tom Callahan, people from Emily's funeral who'd told him if he ever needed anything. Emily would have loved this, Pete Martinez said from the crowd. She always wanted something like this in redemption. Marcus's throat tightened. She did? Talked about it all the time, Doug added. A sanctuary for animals nobody else would take. Said every creature deserved dignity and a chance. Sarah squeezed Marcus's hand. So what do you say? Want to make your daughter's dream real? Marcus looked at the banner, at the crowd of supportive faces, at Sarah's hopeful expression. For a decade, he'd believed his purpose died with Emily, that all he could do was survive day by day until his time came. But maybe that wasn't true. Maybe purpose could be reborn. Maybe Emily's dreams could live through him. Yeah, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Yeah, let's do it. The crowd erupted in applause. The rest of the day passed in a blur. People came to the booth with donations, ideas, stories of animals they knew that needed help. A local veterinarian offered free services. A feed store owner promised discounted supplies. But the most surprising visitor came just before sunset. Tom Callahan approached the booth looking uncomfortable. The crowd quieted, tension thick in the air. Webb, Tom said stiffly. Callahan. Tom shifted his weight. I heard what you're planning. The sanctuary. And I was wrong. About Nightmare. About you. The words seemed to cost him. I've got a horse. Old mare going blind, probably only got a year left. My foreman says she should be put down, but... He looked at Marcus. Would you take her? Give her a decent end? Marcus studied Tom for a long moment. This was as close to an apology as Tom Callahan would ever give. Bring her by Monday, Marcus said. We'll take care of her. Tom nodded once, relief visible on his face, and walked away. Sarah leaned close. That was big of you. Emily wouldn't have turned away an animal just because she didn't like the owner, Marcus said simply. As the festival wound down and the crowd dispersed, Marcus and Sarah sat on a bench in the town square, watching the cleanup crew work. You know what today was? Sarah asked. Exhausting? She laughed. That too, but it was the day Marcus Webb came back to redemption. Really came back. Not just physically, but you're here now. Present. Part of the community again. Marcus considered this. She was right. For years, he'd been a ghost in his own life, haunting his property, avoiding connection, choosing isolation over the risk of more pain. I was scared, he admitted. After Emily died, after Margaret left, I thought if I never let anyone close again, I couldn't lose them. Couldn't hurt like that again. And now? Now I know that's not living. That's just existing. Waiting to die. He looked at Sarah. You and Nightmare, you both taught me that being broken doesn't mean being finished. Sometimes it just means you're ready to be remade into something stronger. Sarah rested her head on his shoulder. Emily would be so proud of you. I hope so, Marcus whispered. God, I hope so. That night, Marcus sat on his porch with a beer, watching Nightmare doze in the corral. The bull had gained weight, his coat gleaming, his eyes peaceful. No longer the terrified, aggressive animal Marcus had brought home 3 months ago. They'd saved each other, really. Nightmare gave Marcus purpose, and Marcus gave Nightmare safety. Fair trade. His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. 17 people already signed up to volunteer at the sanctuary. This is really happening. Marcus smiled, typing back. Emily's dream. We're just making it real. Another text. No, it's your dream now, too. That's what matters. She was right. Somewhere along the way, this had stopped being about atoning for the past and started being about building a future. Marcus looked up at the stars. The same stars Emily used to point out when she was a little girl, naming constellations, making up stories about the shapes she saw. I'm doing it, sweetheart, he said to the night sky. I'm living again. Finally. A shooting star streaked across the darkness. Marcus chose to believe it was Emily, letting him know she heard, that she approved, that she was proud. In the corral, Nightmare lifted his head, looking toward Marcus as if checking on him, making sure his human was okay. I'm good, buddy, Marcus called softly. For the first time in 10 years, I'm actually good. The bull settled back down, content, and Marcus sat on his porch, no longer the old man no one talked to, no longer isolated and angry, no longer just surviving, and felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Peace. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of hope. The belief that tomorrow would be better than today. The knowledge that broken things, bulls, men, hearts, could heal if given time, patience, and someone stubborn enough to believe in them. Redemption, Texas, lived up to its name that night, and Marcus Webb, after a decade in the darkness, finally stepped back into the light. The old man no one talked to was seen leading a rejected bull. What followed left everyone silent.